Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Welcome to episode 18 of Gold Goes to the Movies. Two things, just to start this one off. First off, apologies for being slightly sweaty. It is very hot here in the UK, and we Brits don't really do aircon in our homes. It's not a normal thing. Every time I ever do a video and it's hot, Americans say, just turn on the aircon. We don't really do that because hot weather, not the norm here. So I have a very tiny handheld fan that I apologise you may hear in the background every so often when there's a quieter bit. And secondly, realised as I was hitting record on this, I've gone for a Star Wars theme and I don't know why. Got the poster, got R2 behind me, even got a t-shirt on. Purely coincidental. There is no real Star Wars connection to this episode whatsoever. I don't know why. I think I would put one thing there, then I saw another thing, I put it there, then I realised I was wearing this t-shirt. I'm trying to think desperately right now of any real connection in what I'm about to talk about across the movies of any connections to Star Wars. Only one I can think of is Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg was in Force Awakens, I think, wasn't he, as an alien? Worked where Rey was trying to bring in stuff to get money. I think, was that what it was? Like someone that paid money for bits and pieces. If you hear me say any actors or actresses' names that don't spring out to me immediately Star Wars, please let me know in the comments, because I'd love for all of this to be worth it rather than just some random collection of nonsense I put out behind me as I hit record. So, big batch of movies today. It kind of feels like that's the way at the moment. These videos have become a little bit less regular. That is mainly just work and life getting in the way. But also, I like to kind of build them around a big cinema release. I think probably mistakenly, because I think in today's world of streaming and just watching movies you've never watched before, there's probably less need to do it. But I like to try to do it maybe just old-fashioned that way. So we've got two cinema releases in this one. We've got some recent streaming releases, a few movies that I was annoyed about missing out when they're at the cinema, so I finally caught up with them. And on top of all of that, to finish it off, a little documentary, a movie documentary that my wife was really wanted to watch. And I'm glad we did, because it was a very cool little documentary. So with all of that in mind, the movies we're going to go through, spoiler-free reviews. I always have to state that. I'm hopefully entirely spoiler-free. Pretty much don't kind of touch upon any reveals that aren't in the trailers, but we can talk about some themes and whether I liked it or not. But they are spoiler-free reviews, so you can watch this to help you make your mind up whether you want to go to cinema or you want to flick on something on one of the streaming services. So what we've got tonight, cinema releases, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. We've got Karate Kid Legends. On streaming, we've got Fountain of Youth, Speak No Evil, Conclave, Nonnas, The Accountant 1 and 2, double bill. I think that might be my first double bill I've done in these. And the documentary Brats, which was the one I was referring to. So let's start with a biggie. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I know it's been out a little while now, but I just couldn't carve out the 3 and a bit hours you'd need to go to cinema to watch it in my spare time, annoyingly, because it is a long film. It is a very long film. Look, I'm a card-carrying member of the Mission Impossible fan club, the movies. I love them. They're great fun for me, and I will always maintain Fallout, for me, one of the most perfect action movies of the past 10 to 20 years. Honestly, even aside from being a Mission Impossible film, I just think it's brilliant. It's so... The whole rhythm of the movie is the perfect embodiment of the theme tune. Dun, 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 and it is constantly, there's one thing to another to another. It's fantastic. Apologies for that attempt at recreating music. And all of those movies bring us to The Final Reckoning, the very grandly titled Final Reckoning. It's the 8th in the series. All the previous 7, we're told, have been leading us to this very point. It's packed full of huge set pieces, plenty of nods to the previous movies as well, and the odd little cameo as well from previous movies. And this movie, if I'm not mistaken, leads straight in. I'm trying to remember now. I did watch it 4 or 5 days ago. Leads straight in from the previous one. And, you know, the AI is still the big bad, the evildoer. which of course I guess is topical in today's world with AI and people struggling to know exactly how much to use it, how far to go with it. Although I did feel like in the previous movie, AI we kind of saw on an everyday level, oh my goodness, how awful and terrifying it could be. Whereas this one, it's more, all of that's a little bit like, yeah, we don't want that to get in the way of the plot. We're just going to make it about the big bad thing it could really do to the whole world. So it's kind of just lurks in the background more than this kind of obvious in-your-face threat. Tom Cruise has said that this is the finale. This is the one, as the title suggests, although some of his co-stars in recent interviews have doubted that. First off, that runtime, which I kind of alluded to at the start, it's just 10 minutes short of the 3-hour mark. It is a long movie. It's the longest in the series. For context, we were talking about Fallout earlier. Fallout is 23 minutes shorter than this film. And like I said, I felt Fallout didn't feel like a 2-hour 20 movie. It felt like a real kind of roller coaster ride of a film. This feels like a near 3-hour movie. It does. It's a little bit bloated at times. I'd say 45 minutes or so in the middle. It's quite heavy on exposition, which slows it down a little bit. Kind of felt if they could have tweaked and just trimmed away at that middle section, I think it could have been a really great film because it's got a lot to kind of, a lot to like about it, a lot to be impressed by and wowed by. But I just feel it loses that roller coaster nature of it about halfway through the film. It gets it back. It does. It just, I guess, it's like a roller coaster. It just has a bit where it goes like that rather than go, way. It just kind of has a little bit of a plateau for a while. But I think it's all made up for me if we're going to keep going to roller coaster analogy because it just has this massive, thrilling plummet at the end, which for me, maybe 45 minutes to an hour or so at the end of the film, it's probably one of the most tense hours you'll watch of an action movie. I think because it's potentially the final one, anyone could die. Any of the main characters could die, and they are all, of course, by the nature of these movies, put in positions where we could be seeing the last of them. So you don't know who's going to kick the bucket, essentially. And that adds a real kind of tense nature to it. When you go into these films, it's a bit like, well, no, they're not going to kill him off. They're not going to kill her off. She's integral to it. And this one, it's like, yeah, they could kill anyone off at any time. And that really does add to it. It raises all the stakes in a kind of I say a real sense, it's a movie, but in a more realistic sense than normal. So Christopher McQuarrie is on board again as director. He came on board Rogue Nation, I think it was. So he's done past four movies of the series, which obviously half of the series. He's got this great eye for action and spectacle and the big set pieces. And there are two enormous kind of set piece action sequences of this movie. One is all set underwater, and that's kind of like a movie in its own right. It's very good. It's fascinatingly done. It's very cleverly done, and I imagine it would have taken so much kind of production work to get that done, and also elements of CGI, but also a lot of practical stuff in there too. And then, of course, there's the much talked about, which we've seen in trailers. We've seen like making ofs. Tom Cruise essentially on an acrobatic biplane, a whole sequence which is a remarkable piece of filmmaking, to be honest. The ending's very good, and it kind of like flips to different things that are happening in different places. And yeah, Tom Cruise on a plane doing his own stunts. It is remarkable. I've read something again. I read it on Instagram, so you never know if it's entirely true or not. But it was meant to be a movie fact that apparently in the very first movie, Tom Cruise was deferring something to his stuntman. He was asked, do you know what, it might be better if you do it. He agreed, and that apparently was the moment that in these Mission Impossible movies he started to want to take on things himself. Don't know whether it's entirely true. He may well have done that in other films or not, but I'm going to choose to believe it because I'd love it to be the moment when we just saw this ridiculous kind of Tom Cruise putting himself into the action as much as possible to kind of sell it to the audience. And it does. It's an incredible scene, this final stuff that goes on. Most of the cast from Dead Reckoning, which, yes, it lost its Part 1 tag along the way when they realised they weren't going to call this Part 2, presumably because it didn't make much, if any, of a profit. I think it lost, actually, quite a lot of money, Dead Reckoning, so they probably thought, well, maybe I want to associate that with this. But most of that cast are back. Hayley Atwell's back, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Isaiah Morales, Pom Clementeff, who else we got? Henry Czerny's back, Angela Bassett's back, and all used in varying ways, in some good ways, mostly good ways actually. Most of them have quite. I think that's the thing, I guess, with a near 3-hour movie. Is there's no one really underused. You're able to give them a fair bit of screen time, for better or for worse. It's one of the most expensive movies ever made, apparently, according to reports, with a budget of somewhere between $300 million and $400 million. It's made just under $460 million worldwide so far. It had the highest opening weekend of the franchise, with $64 million brought in, but it has slowed down a lot, and it looks like it's probably going to lose a fair bit of money when you take, I guess, all the marketing into account as well, which is a real shame, isn't it? Because these movies have kind of been the big tentpole thing of the each year they've come out, they've kind of trying to get people back into the cinemas, make sure they're there, and ultimately, it just hasn't quite made it itself and made it into something that was worth the money. It's currently the second lowest grossing of the series, behind Mission Impossible 3, way off Fallout 786 million, which, like I said, is just a brilliant film. I do wonder whether the runtimes played a part, being almost 3 hours. Like I said, it took me long enough to try and get enough time to go and watch it, because once you take into account the adverts, trailers, everything, you're looking at a good 3.5 hours at the cinema. Depends on how close your cinema is. You're potentially looking at 4 hours out of your day to go and watch a film, which is, that's a lot of time to go and watch a film. And the casual moviegoer is not probably going to be bothered about doing that. And also, I guess there's just the basic thing of you can have fewer screenings of it at a cinema because it's so long. So naturally, you're also missing out on another screening's worth of box office receipts, I suppose. But look, I enjoyed it overall, even if it did sag a little in the middle, mainly because it ended so well. I think that's probably why I enjoyed it so much. And look, just to give you kind of a visual representation of how good the ending was, this is no word of a lie. It was a really quiet screening I was in. I had to go in the middle of the day on a day off. It was about 20 people, I would say, in the cinema, quite a small screen it was in. The final 15 minutes, there were some ladies around and I was sobbing away. I'm not going to say whether that was good sobbing, happy, sad sobbing, whatever it was. You have to see it for yourself. But it clearly affected people. And there was a realisation that, like, oh, wow, this is kind of, we're coming to the end of all of this. 8 different movies. And, yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. I was kind of looking at, oh, wow, kind of thing, I'm probably the most robotic man, kind of, when I'm watching movies. I'm very much like, I'm enjoying this experience, I'm taking in this experience. Definitely get a lump in the throat sometimes when I'm watching a film, but yeah, I was a bit like, oh wow, it's actually kind of added to the experience. I did like, oh, thanks for crying, but you know what I mean. It kind of added like when everyone cheers and loves a moment in the cinema. I think seeing people openly kind of crying also brings something to the experience as well. I'm not saying I was enjoying their pain or happiness or whatever, but you know what I mean. Yeah, so I'm fascinated to see where Tom Cruise goes from here now, because obviously he's dedicated the past 8 years or so to the last couple of Mission Impossible movies and also Top Gun Maverick. These are huge, huge Hollywood films, and probably is the biggest kind of action movie star right now on Earth, isn't he? I think he's got the Alejandro G. Inarritu film that's up next. Then there's talk of an Edge of Tomorrow sequel. Potentially another Top Gun's been talked about as well. I think they were saying they've got a bit of a rough outline of a story for one of those. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see now whether he just like goes, let's try not to make these huge, massive movies just purely for the audience. Can I just do some creative stuff now? I guess it's still creative, just a different kind of creative. So, yeah, look, if you've enjoyed the previous Mission Impossibles, you will enjoy this one, and you'll have to watch it because it ties everything together rather nicely. It's got plenty of great, memorable moments. Just, like I said, with a bit of tightening up, a bit of tweaking and trimming, it could have been a great, great film, but it's still a very, very good way to end the series. I think it's just, when I talk about it not being as good as the rest, Fallout's got such a huge, huge bar to be reached. And yeah, it's good. It's a good way to kind of finish it off. And I agree with Tom Cruise's co-stars. I think he'll come back to do another at some point if there's a good story. So yeah, next up in terms of cinema releases, my wife and I went last night to watch this, Karate Kid Legends. directed by Jonathan Entwistle in his movie debut. It's technically the 6th movie in the Karate Kid franchise. This one kind of brings the original trilogy together along with the one that had Jackie Chan. And you don't have to have watched Cobra Kai to watch this film. If you have, there's a nice little moment you'll appreciate, but you don't have to. Wife and I have been enjoying Cobra Kai. We've got about half of the final series left. So this is a different kind of entity, a different being, different tone to it. I'd say the best thing about this movie, which was all right, it's an all right movie. It's not awful by any stretch of the imagination. We enjoyed it. It was a nice night at the cinema. Nostalgic in some aspects, but also quite fresh and new in others. The best kind of part of the movie by far is the young lead, Ben Wang. He is terrific. He plays Li Feng, who's come from Beijing to live in New York with his mother, who's a doctor. She's played by Ming-Na Wen. I know her mainly from ER, but also, of course, from The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett. What else was she? Oh, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was in that as well. She kind of pops up in so many great roles. So Ben Wang earned this part. It was a massive, you might remember this a couple of years back, this massive open casting call across the world to try and find the next Karate Kid. And he kind of won through. He's got a bit of history with Disney TV, with some shows he did, but he's just got really great charisma and this energy about him. The whole movie hangs on him, and he wears it well. He holds it all together really nicely. And, you know, I guess why he would have probably won through all of the auditions and everything is that not only can he act, not only is he funny, he's got this kind of physical comedy about the way he moves as well, but he can also do martial arts very well. So, you know, fair play to him. There's a little bit of the Michael J. Fox about him in terms of he's clearly old. I think he's in his mid-20s and he's playing a younger guy at kind of college, school kind of era. But he just does it really kind of innocently with this great heart to it. And also, when I speak about the martial arts, it does have this comedic edge to it, Jackie Chan style. I don't think it's any coincidence that, you know, Jackie Chan is in this movie. I'm sure he must have given him some pointers because a lot of it is very much like, the martial arts humour you'll see Jackie Chan do in his films. And like I said, the movie itself, it's nice. I know that's a bad word always to describe something, but it is. Like it or not, it's a nice way to describe this film. How can nice be a nice way to describe a film? You know what I mean. It's just a pleasant 90 minutes or so. It's not a long film. It doesn't try and reinvent the wheel, but it does have some fresh aspects to it. It does bring the Karate Kid into the modern era. I'm a big New York fan. It's one of my favourite cities in the world. So I loved how much of this was kind of set in real kind of New York areas and stuff, and I think it benefits from that as well. Gives it a different vibe to the other films. During one section of it, which is actually a section I probably enjoyed the most, it's a bit like a cross between the Karate Kid and Rocky. I'm not going to say why, but I kind of really enjoyed that bit. And it all works its way towards the classic big finale. There's always some kind of fight or tournament at the end of them all, of course. If we're going to be critical, I would say it fudges its ending a little bit for me. That was one of the things I was a bit like, about. Without giving too much away. And I think people that know these series of films will know this very well. Every film, there's a big fight at the end. It is the Karate Kid. That's what it's all about. And in every big fight, they pretty much always will end with a big special move. Something that's been talked about earlier in the film. It's been trained. And always, it's a move that the main character can't really do. They can't do it properly. So you would imagine in the big fight at the end, are they going to do it properly or not? Whereas I feel like in this movie, we kind of already know that they can do this move. And so when it comes around to being used at the end, all those bits of tweaking and stuff like that to it and everything, I just kind of felt a bit like, there's no jeopardy to it. There's no jeopardy. And that kind of was a bit like, okay. And like I said, I don't think it's not spoiling it because if you've watched Karate Kid, you know exactly the format that all these movies go by. And it's still very well executed. It's just a little bit like, okay. And I mean, look, and it wasn't necessary. Didn't need to do that. There could have been far more jeopardy to it. You've got Jackie Chan in this, and of course the original Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio's in it as well. They're both very much supporting characters. On the poster, it's like, da, da, as if to say, Karate Kid Legend, it's about these two. Yeah, not so much. Not so much. They are supporting characters in this. Like I said, it is all about Warren, and he is the heart of this movie. Along with, I would say, pizza shop owner and former boxer Joshua Jackson, and his daughter, played by another Disney alumni, Sadie Stanley. There's a nice little chemistry between the two young leads, kind of their little romance that's going on. And Joshua Jackson is probably one of the most ridiculous, charming actors in TV and movies. He really is. And I'd say the little kind of triangle between the three of those in the different kind of relationships, the romantic one between the two young leads, but also this kind of friendship / paternal thing going on between Joshua Jackson and the main character that's the heart of the movie for me more than anything else. And it's kind of what drives everything on. You've got Aramis Knight as well as the nemesis. There's always got to be a nemesis in these films. Someone that's a bad guy, but they give him enough little beats and notes where you're like, oh, they don't really mean it. They've just been made that way. And yeah, he's good enough. Movie hasn't done particularly well at the box office. It's made about $90 million off a $45 million budget. Look, I just thought it was enjoyable. It was a nice night at the cinema. Fresh in some parts, nostalgic in others. My wife and I both enjoyed it at the film while accepting, look, there's going to be little silly cliched bits, little bits like, what? There's a few times when someone is punched and they fly a very long way and you're thinking, okay, I get that you've kind of talked about this special little punch. It's another little thing in the movie, but come on, they're not really going to fly that far, surely. But yeah, it's good fun. And the fight sequences are well choreographed. You know what you're going to get if you're going to a Karate Kid film. Let's be honest. You're not going in there expecting Oscar-worthy stuff. You're going in there expecting just a little bit of fun, and that's what it is. Next up, what should have been a lot of fun, Fountain of Youth. A globe-trotting adventure movie that's on Apple TV. It's got stars galore in it. You've got John Krasinski, Natalie Portman, Domhnall Gleeson, Isa Gonzalez from the Ministry of Ungentle Warfare and Baby Driver, Ariane Moayed. I can't remember how you pronounce it now. Moayed, perhaps. I know him mainly from Succession. Can't say his name, but I know him from Succession. Stanley Tucci also pops up very briefly. He has a bigger part in the later film we're going to talk about. It's all directed by Guy Ritchie, who apparently stepped in after Dexter Fletcher had to pull out of the project. Guy Ritchie's been doing a fair bit of streaming stuff, hasn't he, recently, in terms of movies and also a couple of terrific TV series with Mobland on Paramount Plus, which I loved, and The Gentleman on Netflix, which I also loved. So, this I'm definitely not putting in the category of I loved, even though I was really hoping I would. It's written and executive produced by James Vanderbilt, who's written the brilliant Zodiac, two Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man movies, Independence Day Resurgence, as well as the more recent Scream movies. With all of that talent involved and what was a reported $180 million budget, this probably should have been an absolute cracker of a film, but it's just okay. It's not a bad movie. It's got some good set pieces. I really like the start. The start sets you up into something that never really is delivered, which was a shame. It just could have been so much more. When you've got that level, calibre of actor and actress and director as well, when someone like Guy Ritchie, it just should have been much more. It just all feels, that script especially feels very paint by numbers. It's got cliches galore. You'll be watching bits of it and like, oh, that's like that film. Oh, they've kind of tried to do a bit like that, or this or that. It's kind of National Treasure / Da Vinci Code. It kind of wants to be Indiana Jones, but it never really gets near that. And I'd say it's not as fun as those Nicolas Cage National Treasure movies either. Look, John Krasinski, always watchable. A bit like Joshua Jackson. He's a guy that is always very charming, very good to watch, as is Natalie Portman. Both terrific kind of actors who in this sort of thing should absolutely smash it, but you've got to give them the dialogue to work with. It's just not funny enough. It's not interesting enough. It's just following a formula. It's almost like, we talk about Mission Impossible and AI. It almost feels like someone has tapped into AI AI, could you make a National Treasure type movie, please, with a dash of Indiana Jones and an element of, Da Vinci Code, please? And it's come out with this. And that's obviously one of the big things about AI is you're never going to reproduce heart, emotion, humour, stuff like that. You're always going to have something that's just kind of a reproduction, and that's very much what this feels like. Like I say, it's got a couple of fun moments. There's no denying that at all. And the talent involved ensures it's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination at all. But it's one of those movies I think you'll probably get to the end of it, and within an hour you'll probably try and remember what it was that you watched, or you'll forgot you actually watched it. Must admit, when I was compiling the list of movies I'd watched that I wanted to talk about in this, I forgot about it right until I was doing my final notes. I was like, oh yeah, watch that as well. So exactly that. One movie that hasn't been forgotten in this household, absolutely not, because my wife has been raving about it ever since, is Speak No Evil. So Speak No Evil, if you're not aware, it's a Blumhouse production, a remake of a Danish/Dutch movie with the same name. This one, the Hollywood version, stars James McAvoy, who's just fantastic in pretty much everything, Mackenzie Davis, Eileen Franciosi, and Scoot McNairy, who I feel like I've spoken about loads in these videos, and also loved him in Godless, which I watched not too long ago on Netflix. It's written and directed by James Watkins, who brought us Eden Lake, The Woman in Black. He's set to direct Clayface for the DC kind of slate as well coming up. So this is a story, if you're not aware, of an American couple and a British couple, both with children, one each, who meet in Italy on holiday. And the American duo, later, they've stayed in touch. They take up an invite to come stay with the two Brits in their farmhouse. As you would expect, especially with Blumhouse involved, the production company, they soon find all is not as it seems. And all the six main actors are brilliant. They play their roles superbly as this kind of increasing suspense just goes up a notch, up a notch right to the end when it's like, whoa! And yeah, it's just really good. Loads of tension, like I said, loads of really awkward, uncomfortable moments. Children are great in it. James McAvoy is just... he chews up the scenery. We know he can do these kind of massive, grand roles, and he's just fantastic in it. He's such good... I was going to say fun. It's probably not fun, this movie. He's very tense at times and awkward, but he certainly is... yeah, he's really, really good in this. And apparently the original movie it's a remake of, everyone raves about it, says it's more of a... That one, the original, is more of a raw and psychological tale. Takes more risks, and people that watch that said that's the better film. I'm going to have to watch it to make my mind up on that. Sometimes I think, doesn't it always work? If you watch the original and then the remake, you'll always love the original. And sometimes if you watch the remake first, that's the one that you kind of stick to, for better or for worse. But yeah, it's really good. If you get a chance to watch it, I think I watched it on Sky. Really good. If you're in the UK, that's what it will be on. Really well received movie as well, critically well received, made $77 million off of just a $15 million budget, so it did really well in that respect. And as I said, Mrs. Gold absolutely loved it. For the rest of the night, she was just declaring, I can't stop thinking about the movie. And in the days ahead, she was absolutely telling everyone to watch it. So yes, that's on Mrs. Gold's high recommendation list for anyone. Next up is Conclave, which I missed at the cinema. Really annoyed that I missed it. Obviously, it got all the Oscar buzz. It's been on Amazon Prime for the last couple of weeks. If you're not aware, it is based on a Robert Harris book of the same name. Concerns the conclave that's organised to name a new pope after the death of the previous one, and all the scheming and secrecy involved in it all. Of course, it suddenly became very topical because we had a change of pope. And Pope Leo, the new man at the... on the balcony, as it were, apparently watched it before he going into the conclave that led to his very appointment. So it also made a lot of money. It made $126 million off a $20 million budget, which, you know, when you talk about what it's about, you probably think, like, how's it done that? But it's just a very, very good film, and obviously the Oscar buzz was around it. It's got 8 Oscar nominations and 1 Best Adapted Screenplay for Peter Strawn. Loads of powerhouse performances. It was all directed by Edward Berger, mainly known for German movies like All Quiet on the Western Front, which won Best International Film at the Oscars a few years back. It's his English language debut, acting royalty wherever you want to look. Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, Sergio Castellito, Isabella Rossellini. And the story, we spoke about all those actors in Mission Impossible, very different kind of film, having plenty to do. Everyone in this film has got stuff to do in it, particularly Fiennes, who he's rarely off screen. He's such a good actor. Ray Fiennes, what a man. It's got twists and turns. It's got a big ending that most people probably won't see coming. Sometimes when you watch a movie a long time after everyone's raved about it, it kind of doesn't live up to the hype. It could be a real letdown, but didn't for me. Conclave's excellent. I'm sure most people have seen it by now, but it's superb. It's really, really gripped me. Next up, very, very different film, but very sweet little movie, is Nonnas. Which was far better than I was expecting. Despite the cast, when you see the cast or hear the cast, you'll be like, well, why wouldn't you think that's good? But it's because, and this is not to be too snobby or anything, but sometimes when you get streaming kind of movies that come out, sometimes they're a bit rushed and you feel like they've been chucked out there. And, there's been a few Netflix originals and Amazon ones as well that I've seen in the past, and I've just been like, thanks, kind of thing. And this one, we just liked the idea. My wife and I sat down to watch it a couple of Saturday nights ago. We thought, this is going to be hopefully a nice movie. And that's exactly what it is. I'm using nice again. In the world of journalism, nice is such a hated and frowned upon word, and I've been using it frequently in this. But it is. It's just a lovely movie. It's done very, very well for Netflix. It's had like hundreds upon hundreds of millions of watches, and you can see why. It's really warm and heartfelt. It's all based on a true story about Joe Scaravella, who's played in this by Vince Vaughn. It's about a man whose mother dies, and with the money he inherits, he decides, kind of in his grief, to open up a restaurant where all the chefs are grandmothers. No restaurant experience whatsoever. They haven't either. He just wants people to eat the food that your mama used to make. And I don't know why I did that. And he puts himself in big financial problems to do so, and also pulls in his best friend and causes them financial issues as well to make this happen. The Nonnas, the grandmothers in this movie, are real heavyweight acting legends. You've got Lorraine Bracco, Talia Shire, Susan Sarandon, Brenda Vicario. All of those four ladies have either won or been nominated for an Academy Award. They're brilliant together. There's a few clashes to begin with, some lovely moments as they kind of see how hard Vince Vaughn's character is working for them to try and keep them doing what they realise they actually love and actually need in their lives as well at this stage in their lives. Vince Vaughn is actually kind of more dialed down than normal. We see him in the ways he can be, his trademark style that he often has in films. This is just a really sweet, low-key performance from him. It's really nice. He's a grieving son that just wants to make this idea work. And he pulls it off really well. It's a really nice little piece of acting. There's nice turns as well. His best friend is Joe Manganiello. And if you haven't watched these before, pronunciation of anything that is not a four-letter word is horrendous. So he's in it. His wife's Drea de Matteo, making it a double Sopranos helping there with Lorraine Bracco. Actually, it's a hat-trick because Michael Rispoli turns up in a small role as well. Linda Cardellini is the love interest, and it's all tied together very nicely by the director Stephen Chbosky and written by Liz Mackey. It was released on Mother's Day weekend in the US and went straight to number one on Netflix, and you can see why. It's pulled, like I said, it's pulled in huge viewing numbers, far more than I think anyone expected. It's just got this lovely charm about it. It's very New York Italian. All of the actors bring something really nice and warm to it. It's really, really liked it. Really enjoyable film. Next up is a double bill, and that is The Accountant 1 and 2. The Accountant, if you haven't seen it, was released back in 2016. I hadn't ever seen it. And then I saw lots of people kind of saying how much they enjoyed The Accountant 2. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to watch it as a double bill because The Accountant 2 has just come on Amazon Prime. So the original is about an autistic man who's a forensic accountant for various criminalised organisations who just happens to be able to hurt people with his hands as much as he can his brain. The original had actor I love, John Bernthal, in it. Also Anna Kendrick, J.K. Simmons, John Lithgow, Jeffrey Tambor. Some really good kind of talent in that as well. Affleck in the original is very, very good, as is supporting cast. Got some good set pieces, strong plot, good writing. It's all directed by Gavin O'Connor, who did Warrior, which I really like, Tom Hardy, Joel Edgerton film. It's just a really smart, cerebral action thriller. Yeah, little bits of dark humour sprinkled in there as well. And it made, talking about these films with small budgets that made big ones, it made 155 million off just a 44 million pound budget. So there was always going to be a sequel. Took a little while, but it arrived this year in the shape of The Accountant 2. Affleck's back, Bernthal's back, Simmons is back. Again, it's directed by O'Connor off a Bill Dubuque script. I think that's how you pronounce it, or Dubuque. Again, another good slice of cerebral action movie making. Strong turns from Cynthia Ada Robinson is back in it from the first one as well. Daniela Pineda is in it as well. Those two have a brutal fight about 3/4 into the movie, which is like, it's exhausting to watch and painful to watch as well. And then it kind of leads to an even bigger showdown at the end with Affleck and Bernthal. I can't really tell you much about their relationship because the first movie kind of hinges on how that is defined, I guess is the best way to put it. I'd say this sequel leans more into their relationship and it works better for it probably because they're a very good pairing. They kind of spark off each other really nicely, good foils for each other. This one's made $102 million so far off an $80 million budget. Still well received enough for a third movie to apparently be in development with a potential return for Anna Kendrick. And reportedly, a bit of a road trip element to this one, which I always love in films. I love that kind of Reacher style, going to a small town and helping out people. Those people misunderstanding or underestimating just what a force of nature the main character is. And I would like to see these characters put into that. I think that would be pretty cool. So yeah, I recommend both films. They're good fun. They're good movies. Finishing off is that documentary I was going to talk to you about very briefly. Mrs. Gold is a big fan of 80s movies, as am I. She's in particular a big fan of St. Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, those kind of ones. And these are the subject of Brats, or part of the subject of Brats, which is now on Disney+. It's it's directed and presented by Andrew McCarthy, who's in two of my favourite late 80s films, Mannequin and Weekend at Bernie's. He's trying to make sense of the term Brat Pack, which was a term born in a newspaper article. A journalist, I've got his name somewhere here, actually, I've written down, David Bloom, who wrote about, he was spending some time with Emilio Estevez, and it was kind of meant to be a story about him, and it ended up creating this term Brat Pack, and it was quite a scathing article about this group of young actors in Hollywood at the time. And this whole documentary really is about that term. It was mainly used about the actors in movies such as St. Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club as well. And Andrew McCarthy talks to people like Demi Moore technically, isn't it? Always, all my life has said Demi Moore, and it's just so clear nowadays. It is Demi Moore. But you know when you get a certain way of saying something stuck in your brain? So Demi Moore, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, like I said, Ali Sheedy, Timothy Hutton, Leah Thompson from Back to the Future films, John Cryer. He's probably better known for Two and a Half Men nowadays, but obviously he was in those original films like Pretty in Pink he was in, wasn't he? And plenty of others about how this term affects them. He then speaks to a journalist, David Bloom, who wrote the original article, and that's quite a fascinating piece as well, because I think he goes in expecting something from that exchange, which he maybe doesn't get. But yeah, that's probably, it's all been building towards meeting this journalist. I think it's really interesting as well, because there's lots of takes on this subject matter. Whether it was all very harsh on this young group of actors, whether it was too much to put upon them, whether they were just being too precious, whether they benefited from the term Brat Pack, or whether they struggled under the weight of it and what it meant. And exactly who was part of the term Brat Pack. That's kind of discussed in this as well. You know, even that seems quite hard to pin down. Which movies, which actors does it actually mean? And everyone that's asked kind of adds different actors and says different ones weren't involved in that as well. But it's really well made. And as always in these things, it's always interesting to see who declines to take part. And that's also an aspect of this documentary as well. And McCarthy's a really interesting guide through it. Clearly, you feel maybe it's bothered him, the term, more than anyone else that he speaks to. And I think that lends itself kind of to a lot of soul searching and stuff. It's a good documentary. I do recommend it. So that's it. That's the batch of movies and one documentary for this group. I've got so many films coming up in the coming days and weeks. 28 Days Later is out later this week. We've got F1 coming up, the big Formula One movie. Megan 2.0 comes out as well a couple of days later. Then we've got the new Jurassic World Rebirth that arrives to start off July. Then 9 days later, which I'm really looking forward to, is Superman. They've been doing a lot of press for that. I'm not sure how to take that, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Superman is my favourite comic book character. The original with Christopher Reeve was just like one of my go-to movies as a kid to watch a billion times. So I really hope they do a good job with it, James Gunn. Then after that, we've got the new I Know What You Did Last Summer. I saw a trailer of that earlier. Then we've got Fantastic Four comes out. July is just packed with blockbusters. There's so many great ones to talk about. And that's good for me because it means that hopefully I'll have loads of them I'm able to do more regular stuff on, videos on. I saw Warfare is now on Amazon, so I'm going to give that a watch in the next couple of days. I need to rewatch Rogue One because I've just finished watching Andor, which I loved, and it goes straight into Rogue One, so I've got to watch that again. I don't think I've seen it since I first watched it at the cinema, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, tons of films to watch, tons of movies to discuss in the weeks ahead, and hopefully I'll be back a little bit more regularly than the gap that we get. The one benefit is it means we can have a big old long chat about plenty of films. So, right, time to head off. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves, and keep watching those movies. Goodbye.